You are listening to Let's Talk Trio on podcasts. Keep up with the latest episodes by downloading the Podbean app or stream episodes via our social media accounts. Search for Let's Talk Trio on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. This episode is sponsored by StudentAccess. StudentAccess, the leader in Trio software. StudentAccess is an online database solution that allows Trio programs to track their students' information, connect with students by text messages, streamline the APR, and work from anywhere, all online, with automatic updates for changes from the Department of Education. Their technical support team includes former Trio staff and has over 50 years of combined experience working with Trio. Make it easier to focus on your priority, the students. For more information and to request a free demo, visit their website at www.studentaccess.com or call them toll-free at 1-800-801-1232. That website again is www.studentaccess.com or 1-800-801-1232. Be sure to share your favorite episodes on your social media by tapping that share button. This is a great way to support the podcast. Now here's your host, Juan Rivas.
Thank you, Amelia, for that wonderful introduction. Hello, listener, and welcome to this episode of Let's Talk Trio. This is Season 7, Episode 2. I am your host, Juan Rivas. Thank you for tuning in, for downloading and streaming from your favorite podcast platform. Before we begin, some announcements. Heads up, Trio community. The Council for Opportunity in Education's 2025 Policy Seminar is coming up on Sunday, March 16th through Wednesday, March 19th at Washington, D.C. Go to COE's website to look at registration details. The link is provided on the podcast description episode. With constant changes happening at the presidential level and impacting Trio programs, now is the time to advocate for Trio. Make sure you reserve your spot today. The 2025 Trio Student Access and Success Conference hosted by North Carolina Central University is happening Thursday, April 10th through Saturday, April 12th. The Trio Student Access and Success Conference is a 3-day student development conference designed to provide Trio and accessibility scholars with the opportunity to experience community engagement, academic and personal development, networking, and overall enrichment. Visit the conference website for more information and to register. Again, the link is on the podcast description. In today's episode, we have the Trio Upward Bound staff from the University of Montana-Missoula, featuring Xavier Xtravaganza, Jonathan Carter, and Dannette Fadness. The Upward Bound staff from the University of Montana are on the podcast to share their personal, educational, and career journeys. Learn how they began their work in Trio. So coming up in just a bit, the Trio Upward Bound staff at the University of Montana-Missoula. A heartfelt thanks to our individual supporters, Angelica Vialpando, Rosario Riley, Dr. Ryan Barone, Dr. Jamie Motley, Dr. Jeff Nepute, Angelica Valdez, Felicia Rivera, Eric LaMaster, Jeff Kahlden, and Jaded Electronics. Thank you to our corporate sponsors, TrioJoblist.com, NOSOTROS Education Center, TheTrioStore.com, powered by Proforma. Visit www.thetriostore.com, your source for Trio graduation stoles. And Student Access. Thank you all so much for your continued support of this podcast. You too can be a sponsor of the podcast. Head on over to Patreon and search for Let's Talk Trio. Choose one of 4 Patreon levels. You can support this podcast for as little as $1 a month. If you own a business and would like to run an ad on our podcast, send us an email at letstalktrio@gmail.com for details. Become a supporter with a one-time donation to the podcast business PayPal account. Our business handle is at Let's Talk Trio. Your support helps lift Trio voices. If you would like to nominate a participant, staff, or alumni to be on the podcast, send us an email at letstalktrio@gmail.com. That email again is letstalktrio@gmail.com. Again, a great episode featuring the Trio Upward Bound staff at the University of Montana-Missoula. Sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. Hello, Trio Nation. My guests on the Let's Talk Trio podcast serve as staff members for the Trio Upward Bound program at the University of Montana. Welcome Jonathan Carter, Dannette Fadness, and Xavier Xtravaganza, the Let's Talk Trio podcast. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
Thank you all for giving us a little bit of your time this evening to talk about you, to talk about your programs. I'm very, very happy and honored that you're here.
We're very excited to be here, actually. Thank you.
I'm excited to hear your trio journey. So typically I have a whole introduction for the guests. I was doing my research, but I figured that the audience would like to hear from you for this intro. So can you tell us your name, your position, where you graduated from, and something interesting about you?
All right, I'll go first. So I am Dannette Fadness, she, her, hers. I am the director of UM Trio Upward Bound. And let's see. Oh, I graduated from the University of Providence, Great Falls. But when I went there, it was the University of Great Falls, so it's UGF. So I'm struggling with the name change. It's been a couple years, but I'll get used to it. And something interesting about me. So I had to look around and find things that were interesting about me. But I used to run the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute here at the university. And during that time, I wrote a chapter in a cognitive fitness book of cognitive fitness for adults, a chapter on that program. So nobody can buy the book because it was $160, but hey, it's in the library.
Nice.
And I'm Jonathan Carter, he, him. I am the program manager for UM Trio Upward Bound. So I spend a lot of time with reporting and budgets. I'm in the middle of APR season at the moment.
Whoa.
So searching for students in the National Student Clearinghouse and everything that comes with that. I graduated from Purdue University in Indiana. And something interesting about me, I am a big fan of film and cinema, especially past decades, from other countries as well. And that's something that I've really enjoyed diving deeper into in recently, especially like the silent era and pre-code as well, and looking to expand my horizons.
Right on.
And I'm Xavier Xtravaganza, he, him, his, and I am the academic advisor for the Trio Upward Bound program here at the University of Montana. I am from the University of Montana, and something interesting about me is I love to travel. I've lived in just about every state in the United States, save like 2 or 3. So yeah, I really love exploring and just learning about new cultures.
Right on. I got to ask you, Xavier, what part of Colorado did you live in?
Colorado Springs, Manitou Springs area.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, I hiked the incline twice.
Oh my God, I could only do it once.
Yeah,
that
hardcore.
Once was enough.
Hardcore. That was hardcore.
It absolutely is. So how are things in Montana, y'all? How are things looking up there?
Well, we tried to decide what you're asking about this, and we feel like Montana is really too hot right now. It was 40
unseasonably
degrees
warm
yesterday.
Yeah.
It's too hot. We have 0 snow outside, so it's pretty odd.
Right? Dannette, I like how you looked outside to verify that there's no snow. No, I agree. I think the unseasonably warm this season, Colorado's experiencing that. Like, we have our warm days longer than usual, so it's kind of odd. What about for the rest of y'all? Yeah.
What else is going on in Montana? Well, I will say that this great weather helped us because we got a chance to travel up to the Blackfeet Nation with Browning. We have students up in Browning and in Heartbutte, and we got to go up there the first week of December, and the roads were clear and the weather was beautiful. And the only snow we really saw was while we drove through Glacier on the way up and back, just at the edge of Glacier. So the good weather is helpful for some things like travel in the winter.
Absolutely. What is something that you will have learned about yourself or you've learned in 2024?
A big thing for me that I realized being in this position and experiencing my first summer academy this past summer is how much I really enjoy and need even to be in a position to have a job that's really having an impact. And this summer that impact was immediately apparent, and it was so rewarding to see that So that's something that's really become apparent to me going forward as I make career plans down the line, how I want to make sure that I'm in a position that can have that kind of impact on such a large scale.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
and to piggyback off Jonathan, I would say for me, patience, definitely something that we learn, throughout life all the time, every day. But especially in 2024, with a lot of the hiccups that happen in life, I would say that through that patience, I'm kind of learning that I'm very privileged, kind of like Jonathan was saying, to be able to work with amazing kids and be able to make a difference in students' lives, right? Just having that wonderful ability to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What I've learned is that I'm really good at hiring staff. I just
Right
want to
on.
say these two are so incredible. And, I've only been in this position for a year and a half or so now.
Oh, wow.
And I got to hire both of these folks, and it is a pleasure. And I love watching them grow and learn about our students and the passion that they bring. So that's what I learned, is I'm really good at hiring staff.
That is amazing. And it's very rewarding, right? When you have a staff that has great chemistry, and it seems like you really enjoy being around each other, which also benefits the program.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
for
Yeah.
sure. Mhm.
What are you looking forward to in 2025, either professionally or personally?
Go for it.
For me in 2025, I'm going to be starting the Master of Public Administration degree here at UM. So I'm excited about that, excited to expand my skill set and learn about ways that I can be a better public servant and grant steward as well, thinking down the line as I will take on additional responsibilities, making sure that I'm prepared to do that responsibly and effectively. So that's a big thing for me down the line in 2025. And then looking forward to next summer.
That's awesome. Yes.
Absolutely.
What are you looking
Me?
forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like Jonathan as well, I'm pursuing a master's in public administration, which is something that I really enjoy. I was not headed that direction when I started out, but I'm actually looking forward to continuing to pursue that. Because as he said, it's really wonderful to be able to be a part of this program and be able to make a difference and have that ability. Yeah, so it's nice.
Wonderful.
So I'm gonna follow that one up with, I just found out that I was accepted to the Educational Leadership Doctoral Program, and I start that in January. So I'm looking forward to that as well. And also, the three of us are going to climb. We're gonna keep working out until we can climb to the M. I don't know if you're familiar with the M
What
Hill.
is the M? Yeah, tell us about that.
So there is a big M right up there. Well, you can't see it now because it's dark outside, but there is an M on the hill right over there. It's a big deal. They light it up for football games, all that. And it's at the top of, no, it's actually not, but it's very high up on the mountain, and it's got a zigzagged path to get up there. And we all have some fitness goals, so we want to get to the M, and we're gonna encourage each other to do so.
That is amazing. So first off, let me just say congratulations on the three of you for pursuing your education, for being excellent role models to the Upward Bound students, because pursuing education, pursuing lifelong learning, that's what it's all about. And Dannette, wow, amazing. Like being in the education program for PhD, amazing. So congrats to the three of you. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, because so in this segment of the podcast, what I like to do is have the audience get to know you a little bit in terms of like your upbringing and your family dynamic. Can you share a little bit about that for the three of you?
Family dynamic. I would say my father worked for Purdue's sort of satellite campus in my hometown where I grew up. And so college was always something that was pretty much assumed, I would say, like that's just the next step after you graduate from high school. And I was able to visit the campus where he worked pretty frequently. We did a science fair project once using some of the technology that is available on the campus. And so that's a little bit about kind of the college going culture that I grew up in, and that really propelled me to be in my undergrad, and then my initial plans after that didn't quite pan out. So I was not sure what my next steps would be. And then I found my way to AmeriCorps service, and that aligned really well with my desire for public service to be able to explore that. And so I found my way to Montana, and I served at a Spectrum Discovery area here at the beautiful new Missoula Public Library, one of the best in the world.
The best in the world.
Recently, it keeps winning more and more awards. It's great.
Wow.
And it was lots of fun to engage small children with science. I was able to do a little bit of outreach as well to some of our tribal communities. And then my second year, I was the senior leader. And so I was helping people who were in my shoes around the state. And then after my service ended, it was a really easy, natural next step for a Trio Upward Bound, doing a lot of similar type things. In my position, I had actually helped support AmeriCorps members who were serving with Trio programs around the state. So I was a little familiar with Trio, and then it was really easy to make this transition after my service ended.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I would say my story is a little bit different than Jonathan's. I'm a non-trad student, and I came from a family that did not exactly value education as much as that. My family was more just kind of along the lines of, turn 18 and take your next step. So I kind of had to do my own little thing for a little bit. So a little bit about me. I guess I just kind of traveled a little bit all over the United States until I found where I was most comfortable. And then eventually found my way to college, which was great because then, like Jonathan, I kind of found AmeriCorps my freshman year, and joined AmeriCorps and had served pretty much every time I had the chance for the last several years of college, which was great.
So I grew up in Montana, in Anaconda, about an hour and a half southwest of here. And I married my high school sweetheart, and we have 4 beautiful daughters and 9 grandkids. My husband joined the Air Force, so we traveled around the United States and the world, which was really quite fantastic to have that opportunity. And then when he retired after 22 years in the Air Force, we retired here to Missoula so that we could go to Grizz football games. Go Grizz. Yeah, that is the reason I live in Missoula. And also it's the best place in Montana to live. Anaconda's awesome, but Missoula has culture and Grizz football. And the university, right? I'm really interested in higher ed. So when we first moved here, I started working out here at the university. I left for a short time, but I really appreciate having the opportunity to be back here. And I did, while I was in college, I actually served 2 terms in AmeriCorps as well. And then out here, so formerly Montana Campus Compact, they're now the Montana
Campus Network for Civic Engagement.
Thank you, Jonathan. They had this AmeriCorps grant for college attainment work come up, so I applied for that, and I was the director of the AmeriCorps College Coaches Program for 8 years. And during that time frame, I had the awesome opportunity of having both of these individuals in service. So that is how I found excellent staff, was knowing that they were very civically minded like myself, and having worked with them, it was exciting to be able to bring them on. I still do a lot of service, so I am a certified QPR suicide prevention instructor. So I train a lot of folks on how to recognize students in crisis or individuals in crisis. That's enough about me.
I love hearing about you though, and this speaks really to the diverse backgrounds that you all bring to this program. So that's amazing. Now, earlier I heard Xavier say that family really wasn't something, that education wasn't something that your family had valued. Can I start with you and ask, what was that feeling like? Like, did they devalue education, or did it feel like just education wasn't a priority? Yeah, we'll start with you.
Well, I guess the way I would articulate that was it wasn't necessarily that it wasn't of value to them. I just think I'm a first generation student, so I came from a family who did not have at the time even a high school degree. My mom's a single parent and was married a few times, and none of her husbands had degrees. They all had good jobs, but none of them had degrees, and neither did my grandparents, and so on. So for them, it wasn't necessarily that it wasn't a value. It was just they didn't know the way to do it. They didn't know the proper way to take those steps. So it was just kind of pushed upon me, like you're almost 18, you need to, make sure and start get a job. Figure your own stuff out. You got to get out of the house. You're 18, do your own thing.
Yeah.
But I always had the aspirations of becoming, a doctor or a lawyer or a psychologist, something fun and interesting that could help people. So the goals were always there, but I just didn't know because again, my family hadn't, so I didn't know really how to do it, to be honest.
Thank you for that answer, Xavier.
Yeah.
What about for you, Jonathan? Was education, obviously your dad working at Purdue college was surrounding you basically. How was that also emphasized? Like, did your dad push you, mom push you toward the college path?
Yeah, I would say so. It was definitely a culture of college going. They definitely encouraged me to do the best that I could, and really nurtured within me a desire to do the best that I could as well. And so I'm really lucky with the opportunities that I had in high school, and appreciate the support that I received there. So yeah, I would say it definitely was a strong and supportive college going culture, and I was able to make that step, and I appreciate the support that I had that Xavier clearly did not.
Yeah.
Dannette, and for you, was family also very much encouraging about your college path?
My college path.
Yes.
Well, in high school, my mom always had us in, music and dance from the time we were just little kids. So she always appreciated the arts and getting us into learning more about that. And I know that I have older siblings, and my two oldest siblings graduated at the same time, and my mom had to make a decision. She didn't know about financial aid. So she had to make a decision between my brother and my sister on who got to go on to college. And my sister was a straight A student, and she was very responsible, and my brother was less than that, but he was a musician and very talented. And so she decided that she would send him to college, and she used her unemployment to pay for him to go to college. And so my sister didn't get to go for many years later. But yeah, so I guess since my brother did go on to college, that was something that I could think about, but my life took a little different path at that point in my life. Like I said, I married my high school sweetheart. We had our first daughter while we were in high school, so that changes life.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And then we got married when I turned 18, and I dropped out of high school. So life was a little different for me, but I did get to go on to college, right? Because let's see, we'd had all four of our daughters by the time I got to go on to college. So I was a non-traditional student as well. And I had been injured working as a waitress. And so I was on workers' comp, and then Voc Rehab helped me out, and they helped get me into college. And that's the reason I got to go on to college, which was really quite fantastic. But I think my mother always appreciated learning. She did go get an LPN nursing degree at one point. And my father, I don't know how he managed it, but he was an iron worker. And then he was injured. He worked on the smokestack in Anaconda, the big stack, and was injured out there and lost his leg. And then he became he was an alcohol and drug counselor and the director of Deer Lodge County Alcohol and Drug. I never saw him go to college. So I'm confused on how he became an alcohol and drug counselor, and he's no longer with us, so I can't find that out. But I think he went to school at like Galen or something. So he got some kind of a degree to do that. So Yeah,
Fantastic.
life is
Yeah,
different.
absolutely. So it sounds like even though you didn't immediately go to college, the encouragement and the path was always there, and it felt like you could at some point resume.
That I could, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah. And my mom was always learning. Um, whether she was in college or not, she was always learning something.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Are you seeking guidance to enhance your TRIO project's effectiveness and success? Look no further. NOSOTROS Education Center, NEC, is here to empower your TRIO project with expert consulting services. NEC's mission is to promote the effectiveness and impact of TRIO programs. Since 2003, NEC has specialized in providing professional development and in-service staff trainings, allowable cost services, for TRIO projects across the country. The team at NEC, with over 60 years of combined TRIO experience, offers customized workshops and seminars for project staff, compliance assessments, external evaluations, working on and submitting APRs, database customization and training, development of policies and procedures manuals, and project implementation or reorganization services. Additionally, NEC has secured over $774 million in federal funding with a 92% success rate through their live and on-demand proposal workshops, assistance with data collection and review, detailed technical reviews, and comprehensive proposal development services. Join the hundreds of colleges, agencies, and TRIO projects across the country who benefited from NEC's expertise. NOSOTROS Education Center, your partner in TRIO's project success. Visit their website at nosotros.edu.org. Again, that's nosotrosedu.org.
And now, back to the podcast.
One broad question I'm going to ask: when did you get interested in college for the three of you? When did that kind of aspiration to maybe go post-secondary come about?
I mean, I'm happy to go first. I mean, kind of piggybacking off what I said in my earlier comment, watching my mom struggle as a single parent and just barely trying to get food on the table and pay our rent intrigued me right away. I was very interested in doing better than that. I felt like our family deserved better than that, and I wanted to be the one to make that happen. And so, unfortunately, life happened to me, and so it took many, many years for me to get to that point. But I would say the interest was always there. But yeah, I would say later in life when right before COVID happened, a couple of years before COVID was when I had some downtime and I had moved to Montana and getting over an illness and was able to finally get to that point where I could take that next step. And I made that journey into the University of Montana. Thanks to TRIO, actually. TRIO came to the institution where I got my high set, being that I did not actually graduate high school back in the day when I was supposed to. TRIO had made a visit over to the Dickinson Lifelong Learning Center here in Missoula, where I was taking my high set courses to get that little diploma. And I met with one of the TRIO advisors who was like, "You can do this. This works. I believe in you. You should come." And we talked a little bit, and then I took my high set, and I immediately started college about a month later.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
For me, it was pretty early. I had spent some time with my dad in his office at Purdue University in Kokomo, and I had the opportunity to talk to some of the staff there that he would introduce me to, and a couple of the professors as well. He helps as a well, I wouldn't say. Yeah, I think I would say more of an aide, more of a professor's aide. So he would help set up the equipment before engineering professors would hold their classes, and so I had some opportunities there. So for me, it was pretty early on, and really seeing, okay, this is something that is really achievable for me and attainable, and my family supported. So I would say that planning happened for me pretty early on, for sure.
Interested in college? I mean, I did really well in high school, but as I said, I dropped out and started a family instead, right? So I kind of thought that would be my path. And then, I was injured, and but we were over in before I ever got injured, we were over in Turkey living at Incirlik, and I decided to get my GED. So I was like 26, and they had me come in and do a practice test. And I did the practice test, and then they said, you don't need to practice. You're good. Take the test. And I got my GED. And I was like, well, that was really easy considering I've been out of school for, many, many years. So I think I was thinking I would be capable of college.
Mhm.
And then when we moved back to the States, and military doesn't get paid well, so I had to work in the evenings as a waitress so that we could make ends meet. And that was when I ended up with cubital and carpal tunnel, and then I couldn't work. And so then Voc Rehab, workers' comp referred me to Voc Rehab. Voc Rehab did a whole bunch of testing to find out what I could do with my life. And it came back with I should be a elementary school teacher. And I said, no, that's not what I should be. You're mistaken. And they actually said with my trouble with my arms, it would probably be hard to be an elementary school teacher. And I was like, yeah, I think that's true.
Yeah.
So, but they did say, we think that you should go on to higher ed. And one of the things that I could do in the testing was I could manipulate objects in space. I don't know what job that one is except for Tetris, but so I'm good at Tetris, but that wasn't what I was going to go to college for. So I actually, I think I always wanted to make a difference. And so I actually started college in sociology. And then I decided that society's all cool and stuff, but I really preferred the individual mind. So I switched over to psychology. But yeah, so that's how I
Wow.
got to go to college. And I don't know that, yeah, that's how I got interested in college, was they told me I could go and that they would help pay for it. And then I got into Trio SSS. So I was a Trio student as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I want to ask, who were the folks or who were the people who guided you or provided that process to start the process for that college journey for the three of you?
Well, I'll start there. Obviously, it was Voc Rehab a lot. And then Trio SSS was really important as well. I mean, they gave me a place to belong, right? And I can't remember where like FAFSA and all that fun stuff came from, but that was really important, was having the Trio support services there. They gave me a place to belong and helped me through all sorts of the processes and things, right? Yeah.
For me, it was primarily my parents who helped me with that process. With my father as well, he graduated from Purdue, and so there's a little bit of legacy there with me following in his footsteps, and so he helped me when it comes to the applications. I'm also thinking from a financial perspective, I am really grateful for the scholarships that I received going into my undergrad, like the Elks Club of Indiana, the Kiwanis Club, the Indiana Black Expo. Those were all really helpful for me as I took those next steps. So I would say primarily my parents and some teachers as well in high school, and school counselors helped me to make sure that I was heading in the right direction.
And as I said earlier, I pretty much was on my own for many, many years, so I kind of had to take that step. But I would say it was Trio that came into the institution where I was getting my high set, and just recognizing that I was doing well in that aspect, and kind of approached me and was like, hey, you could succeed at this. Have you ever thought about doing this? And I thought, well, no, college is expensive. I know nothing about, student loans or financial aid. I don't think I could afford it. And they were like, actually, you can. And they walked me through the process. And like I said, a month later, I was enrolled. I had already started. I immediately went from getting my high set in March to then getting enrolled in June to start in the summer course that summer. So it was quite interesting and quite quick.
Can you talk about your educational experience elementary through high school, or whatever experience you want to start off with, or one you want to highlight, what was it like for you? Was it positive? Was it something that you really enjoyed? Yeah.
I think I always enjoyed school. I so I was from Anaconda, but I grew up in Opportunity. We were very optimistic humans out there. Not really, but Opportunity was quite fantastic. And I went to Beaver Dam Elementary School, and uh, I think I always enjoyed going to school. I did, like I told you, my father lost his leg working on the smelter, and I also had a seizure disorder as a child. So with all of these things happening in our lives, I actually ended up repeating the fourth grade. Now that made school more of a challenge, right? I had been sick so much, and with my father and everything, I wasn't in class enough. So I repeated the fourth grade, but I think the biggest issue with that was the social aspect, right? All of my friends continued on and I didn't. But repeating fourth grade was really simple. I was always a good student, so it wasn't my grades. It was, I think, that I didn't go to school enough, so they were like, we can't let her go on. And then when you went on to middle school and high school, it was in Anaconda. So then we had a whole new world, right? Opportunity had maybe 500 people, and now we're in Anaconda, which has more people. This smelter was still working then, so that was a different environment to be in. But I also got to be with my friends from my older friends. Then you could spend more time with them. Going on to high school, and it wasn't middle school, it was junior high back then. So I don't know, it was great to go to school there. And like I said, when I dropped out of school, I had A's and B's. I mean, I was a really good student. I was in advanced placement courses. So school was fun. I enjoyed it. So I think when it came time where they were saying you can go on to college, I was like, yeah, I can do that. That's definitely something I'd be capable of. So
That's awesome.
that's it.
My journey was similarly pretty positive. I was, I guess you could say, the stereotypical teacher's pet, and kind of the pleasure to have in class. But when I was in middle school, my parents transferred me to another middle school and high school in a town that was next to the city where we grew up, and so it was much more of a rural landscape there. And so I was always a little bit of the outsider, the interloper, but I was still able to have good relationships with everyone in the class. We were pretty small, under 100. And so I was also a little bit of a perfectionist, and so I've since been working to decrease that characteristic of myself. But that's two big points that stand out to me, and similarly positive. And it also gave me confidence that I could go on to college and succeed and excel there. So it's, yeah, some similar situation in that sense.
I would love to say that my story is exactly the same. However, it is the exact opposite. I went to 26 elementary schools, 2 junior highs, and 3 high schools in my time. We moved around quite a bit, being again that finances were scarce, and my mom probably was married 5 times during my time of being in school. So that meant we moved a lot, multiple states, multiple schools, never really getting a chance to make a good set of friends and keep them. So it was a little bit more difficult and stressful for me as a child growing up, not ever really knowing where I was going to be the next day, which again kind of prompted me to do better in my future once I was out of that kind of environment.
Wow. And again, I want to emphasize like definitely the diverse background that you all come from, and how you've all now arrived as TRIO Upward Bound staff, and how those lived experiences you share with students, which is outstanding. That's phenomenal that you all come from different walks of life.
Mhm.
Were there subjects you absolutely favored, and were there any courses you found challenging?
Mm. I've enjoyed math the most, and which may be bucking the norm a little bit there, and so much so that I started my undergrad degree in math. Was initially where I was thinking, because I just had always enjoyed the math classes that I took. Senior year I took AP Calculus, and I enjoyed that class and did well in it. And then when it comes to a course that I found challenging, physics was one course that I definitely struggled in more so. I'm not still not entirely sure what it was, but something about wrapping my head around that was just tricky for me. And
Mhm.
I'll go next, sure. So subjects I absolutely favored. I'm on the artistic side. I really enjoyed band and choir. I also played football. I know those aren't the core subjects, but I did also love math and science. I just definitely found science a little challenging from time to time. I think you have to be in a place for a long period of time to really understand what's going on, not moving around a lot.
So true.
But I enjoyed the aspect that I could go to any school and find solace in a choir room or a band room or their sports team. I really enjoyed that kind of atmosphere.
Oh, he stole my answers. No. Like I said, my mom always put us into, dance and art, and we didn't really fit into our very rural community because everybody else, had cows and goats and things like that. And we,
Mhm.
danced and played in band and made art that we sold at the corner store. So we were always very interesting. But I think art, band, science, I loved science, and I think I am this old, but it was my junior year in high school when we got computer class. Yeah.
Ooh.
So computers were there, and what we could do with computers was DOS programming, and I was very good at that. I was ridiculously good.
Yeah,
And you had
very
those
cool.
printers that would print out, forever and ever one long piece of paper, and you
Oh,
could,
that's right. And they had the
know,
little holes at the edges.
The
Little
holes
hole
on the
punches on the
edges.
side.
That's
right.
Yeah, and they just fold right up and go straight through.
And
Those were the days.
like I said, I married my high school sweetheart, so I could, put Todd and Danny or T and D and run it for pages on end. It was quite fantastic. I loved computer class. And then I think that the challenging one would be typing class, because I am that old. It's
Typing,
ridiculous.
yeah.
They would put us on manual typewriters, and my pinkies are not strong enough for the
Was it
A.
the
I
enter?
could not
Oh,
get
for
an
the
A
A.
down at all. And so I would be typing
Oh,
along, and
no.
I would use my pointer finger on my right hand and push down the A and push down the A. It's the only way I could type, so it's not a really good typer. And then I would get the chance to be on an electric typewriter, and then you barely touch it, and you've got, 75 A's on your screen.
Oh,
So
my
I
God.
think that's where I struggled with typing. Yeah, that's kind of sad. I'm really not that old. I'm, yeah.
No, Dannette, and I completely relate to you. I'm going to say when I was in elementaries, when they introduced the Apple computer to our classrooms, and I remember being obsessed, wanting to learn more about it. But and typing for sure. I remember they had to cover our fingers to learn how to do the typing, and we couldn't look down, and we would get deducted points for doing that. So yeah.
I have a short little funny
I want to
story
ask,
about
go
that
for it.
covering your
Go for it.
hands.
Yes.
My daughter was in 8th grade, and she was a computer genius and could build a computer. It was incredible, but we had just moved here, and the counselor called me and said, "Your daughter can't type." And I said, no, I'm sorry, she can type and she can build a computer for you. So you're wrong. And she said, no, ma'am, your daughter can't type. And I said, no, you're wrong. We went back and forth for a while. And then finally I just said, okay, well, when she comes home from school, I'll ask why you guys think she can't type. And it was that right there. It was, they put that heavy thing over the screen, over the keyboard, so she couldn't see it. So she was lifting it up to put her hand underneath it to try to type. And in reality, the girl can type like over 100 words a minute. It was incredible. So, you know, listening to parents.
Well, amazing. Thank you all so much for sharing. So I got to ask, this next question is, what had you choose the college you ended up attending? What drew you to it? What was I know for Jonathan, family was there, but what was ultimately the draw? What was the thing that sold you to it?
I would say for Purdue, definitely, as you said, family, being able to be at Purdue's smaller campus in Kokomo, where I grew up, that was definitely a big thing, with the Purdue brand as well. But also at the time, thinking about a career in the STEM fields, Purdue is really strong in that area, especially with engineering. So that was easy for me to step in that direction. And then another big thing, going back to finances, is that dependent of staff tuition waiver. That was a big deal for my family, that didn't have a tremendous amount of money. And so that made college much more affordable. And so those were the big factors for me. And it seemed like a pretty natural fit.
I'm going to tell you why, but I also have just a kind of a little bit of a funny part to this. So being that I was not a high school graduate and kind of thrust into the world and had to live as an adult as a young person before I ever had a high school diploma and then a degree, quite often, and I'm not really proud of saying this, but quite often on applications, I would put that I had attended college. And then I always kind of said, oh, I went to the University of Montana. I was a Grizz. But the reality is now, all these years later, I ended up having the opportunity to come here because I lived in this city. It was somewhere where it was like cheap and free because, like Dannette, I was hooked up with Voc Rehab Services, and they were able to pay for my entire college experience so far, which has been amazing. It's such a huge relief. So for me, finances, it was cheap, it was affordable, and it was right here where I lived. And great reputation. Go Grizz, right? Great reputation. Go Grizz.
The best stadium. I think for me, it was definitely location. I mean, I was married with 4 kids, so I didn't have much options there. And we were up in Great Falls, Montana. There was MSU, the community college for MSU, but my goal was to do a 4-year degree. So the University of Providence, Great Falls, the University of Great Falls, which is what it was when I went, was by far the best option. And I think after I got there and got hooked up with the trio folks and stuff, it really was, right? It was the perfect place for me to go to school. Yeah.
Right on. Did you know what major or program you wanted to enter?
Well, I went with sociology, and like I said, I switched to psychology. So it was always going to be something about the human experience, right? And making a difference. How was I going to make a difference going to college? So I think that was, and it was a private Catholic university. I did have Voc Rehab who helped pay for that. I also got merit scholarships, which was quite fantastic. Those seemed to go down a bit as they built up their athletic department. They started using some of the scholarship funds for athletes. And when I started it in college, they said the average age was 31. So it was very non-traditional, and they really supported non-traditional students, which was quite fantastic. When I was taking the exam to get into college, I guess they make you take an exam. I don't know. Placement exam, maybe?
Yeah,
it was probably a placement exam. And a young lady sitting next to me said, wow, they said the average age here is 31, and I don't see anybody 31, even close to 31. And I said, well, now you're my new best friend, because I was
Oh.
31 at the time. But yeah, so I think that also helped, that it was had a lot of support for non-traditional students there.
I
Wonderful.
definitely did not know what major I wanted. Initially, I initially applied to Purdue as a physics major, and then I took a physics class that I struggled a bit in, and I decided actually that might not be a good idea. So then I switched to math before I ever stepped foot on campus, and then kind of experiencing that first year of math courses. I think it's fair to say that the Calculus 1 and 2 for engineers are a little bit of a weed out course, I think is fair to say. And just the way the exams were structured and presented made that challenging. They succeeded in that. And so that really led me to reflect on my values and thinking about my desire to make a difference. And I thought, well, I enjoy both that analytical STEM side of things as well as more of the humanities side, getting to know human behavior. And so that's what led me to psychology. So I really definitely was not sure what I wanted to do, but I'm really glad that I kind of stumbled my way into that. I also picked up a philosophy minor. I took a philosophy class my freshman year, and I really enjoyed it. And the professor said you should really consider either picking this up as a major or a minor, and I continued with that as a minor as well.
And I would say I knew exactly what I wanted to do. Being able to actually do it was another thing. I came in pre-med, was all gung-ho about wanting to become a surgeon. I wanted to be an anesthesiologist. That was my whole plan. And then quickly got into Chem 141 and realized that was no longer going to be a viable option for me because Chem 141 was hard. I had been out of school for many, 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 many years at this point, and coming in my 30s was kind of like, oh goodness, okay, here I am, and I'm back with all of these high school kids that have just graduated, and they're getting this, I'm so not getting this. So Chem 141 really kind of knocked me out of the running for pre-med. I then kind of transitioned sideways into also sociology as well, and then kind of was like, okay, this is great, but not exactly where my heart is. And then tried communications as well. And I realized I'm not a great public speaker. And then
You're doing great.
Finally kind of decided at that point, I'm like, much like these two, I really enjoy the human aspect. I love observing human nature. I like watching how people react to certain things in life and just seeing that, the choices that they make and what makes them tick. And so I also slid into psychology and then kind of parlayed all of that into a multidisciplinary studies degree, because at that point I was just kind of like, okay, I've got all these classes over here, all these classes over here and over here and over here, but none of them are going to add up to a degree. And then the university, my advisor was kind of like, finally at this point, Xavier, we've got to get you through here. Let's kind of combine all these things and make it into a degree. We have this option now for multidisciplinary studies. Here's where you're headed. And so that was kind of my journey, but I also really enjoyed psychology courses. It was just so wonderful to be a part of that.
That's awesome. Can you talk about your college experience? Was it what you expected?
Oh, you're cutting in and out now.
A little bit, yeah.
And you're frozen.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Yes.
you are. You're back.
I can still hear you, Al.
Yeah, what did you say?
There we expected.
Yeah, you are cutting out
Yeah.
again.
All right. Sorry, y'all. Give me a second.
Okay.
I'm gonna try something real quick.
Okay.
All
I'm
right.
resetting my Wi-Fi. It should still keep us online. It'll just make the signal a little bit stronger.
Okay.
Okay.
How are we doing now?
Good.
Sounds good.
Okay. Can you talk about your college experience and was it what you expected?
So my college experience, I did start, like I said, I was older, and so I started when my youngest was in kindergarten. So I was doing half days. just like she was. And, so that first semester, I went to school and then came home in the evening, and that was that. And I thought, there's got to be more to this, right? So the trio program helped as well, but also, I got my undergrad in psychology, but then I was really interested in art therapy. So I was working with my professors, and they started bringing in art therapy classes for me. And I did an AmeriCorps fellowship in art therapy with one of my professors, which was really fantastic. So I got really involved in art, taking art classes, right? Like I said, my mom always valued the art. High school, I loved art. And so I ended up with both a psychology and an art degree. But so I got involved in the art and action group. We did art at concerts and in the community. And I did art projects with the Montana School of the Deaf and Blind. I did some mosaics with those students. I did art therapy with homeless and displaced youth, doing murals, things like that. So what I found was once I got more involved in college, it was a more meaningful experience. I served as a senator. I also worked on the student newspaper. My English teacher really wanted me to be a writer for the Lumen Press. And so I started out as a writer, and then I started being an art critic, which was apparently the only art critic in Western, or in that area. My art professors were very excited about that. And then I ended up actually being the editor. I did the layout design part of it, and then I became the editor of the newspaper. But what I did was, my family didn't suffer from my extra activities. My sleep did.
Oh, yeah.
So I did homework in the middle of the night. Sleep wasn't necessary, but I think that's really an important part of college, is getting involved in what's going on college so that you find meaning there. And so that was my experience.
Right on.
For me, my first 2 years were I would say pretty typical. Just I had a really strong emphasis on my studies and wanting to do well, and wanting to try to get all A's if possible. I was involved in some of the residence hall clubs where I lived. I was later involved in some of the psychology clubs as well, looking for ways to promote research and build community there. Strongly agree with Dannette about the importance of finding that community in college, especially if you go to a college that's not in your hometown. You can really struggle with loneliness, and so that's so important to find that sense of community. One unique thing, well, not on the world scale, but among the three of us, was the global pandemic that broke out the spring
Oh.
semester my junior year. And so
Ah.
we transitioned to often a lot of online courses there. One thing that I can speak a little bit about is I was part of the research focus honors program in psychological sciences. And so the research that I had with my mentor was around how much strangers, how close they feel to one another after engaging in an activity. And so it's hard for strangers to engage with one another face to face when you can't be around other people. And so
Yeah.
we ended up moving to a technology platform. We're looking at different modalities of technology and how they compare when it comes to those affiliative outcomes. And so one of them was in VR. And so we were one of the few labs, maybe the only, but definitely one of the few labs that were trudging forward with research on campus during the height of the pandemic, we had masks and shields, and we really enforced that very well. And we had no transmission from our study as well, which is important. So that was a really good experience for me when it comes to project management. That's one thing that I always go back to. My mentor, Dr. Chris Agnew, had a lot of confidence in me to really oversee the procedure, and I updated that a bit as we went along. So I really appreciate that experience, and moving into my AmeriCorps service, and then now with Trio Upward Bound, that has been really valuable in being able to manage a project, many moving parts, as well as during a global catastrophe.
Absolutely.
Good experience.
Absolutely.
I would say for me, my college experience, obviously the first couple of years were awesome. They went by pretty quick. I was on the dean's list and the president's list for the first several semesters. I did really well. But then, yeah, and then we got close to COVID happening. I started to also kind of falter a little bit in that area until I found a little bit of a sense of belonging with AmeriCorps. I started my first term of service under Dannette's leadership, which was really cool. Again,
Oh, wow.
I don't know
So
if I've actually
overlapping,
said
okay.
this, but I've actually worked/served for her for the last almost decade of my life.
Wow.
So I've known her for a very long time. We were not as close then as we are now, but she knew me, I knew her. And she was the person I would call to
That's
complain to when I would have a bad day. But I would say my college experience overall, I mean, it was pretty good. It wasn't what I expected, being a non-trad student and coming from a background of a family who had not gone to college, and nobody other than I think maybe my aunt went to college, because I know she became an RN at one point, so she must have had some courses. Nobody in my family. I was the first I'm the oldest of 25 cousins. So I'm the first of
Wow.
any of them. And even at this point later in life, still the first to have gone to college.
That's amazing.
So it was a big deal. It wasn't what I expected. It was very hard. The first 2 years, like I said, were easy, but then it was like, it gets to the point where you're getting to the upper division credits, and it's a lot easier to mess up and to not get things the way you want them to go. So I would say it was a struggle. For me, it was a little bit of a struggle.
Gotcha. Well, thank you all so much for sharing. What is something you remember most about your college experience? And I want to talk about like highlighting what would you will always treasure, what will you will always remember from your time in college.
Well, I think although psychology was a really good major, it would have been my art thesis for I did hidden reality and social art. So I had the opportunity to get a small grant. I was a student leader for Montana Campus Compact, now somebody totally different. Jonathan knows. And I got a small grant to do a homeless awareness campaign. So we set up a shanty town outside of the art building where my thesis show was at. So it had statistics about, homeless veterans and homeless people, and we had we got boxes and we had mannequins, and it was quite fantastic, although, an eyesore. And then inside, I had gotten the chance to do an alternative spring break to San Francisco, which is kind of a more stereotypical homelessness than you would see in Great Falls. So while I was out there, I did photography. I did some black and white photography. We worked at the Glide Foundation. I've never worked so hard in my life, feeding like 1,000 people for each meal. It was insanity. And I knew why I needed to go to college, because I couldn't do that very much. It was a hard work. And so I took photos of stereotypical homelessness out there. I asked everyone, and my husband gave a lot of cigarettes away for people's photos, which was that was how we paid. And so as you walked into my gallery show, one side was black and white photography from San Francisco, and the other side was color photography from Great Falls, and we didn't take photos of actual homeless individuals in Great Falls. We did under the bridges where stacked clothing, and one very, very creative person lived in one area, and sleeping bags under the bridges at the shelter, the Bibles and the children's shelter with little stuffed animals, things like that. So it was color photography on one side and black and white photography on the other. And then I also addressed I did some work with third graders, on doing art. We were talking about social issues of concern, and they addressed homelessness, hunger, the environment, and something else, but I don't remember. But that was really fantastic because they painted, they broke up into groups and painted these different paintings. And the one for homelessness was a house with a big fence around it. And so I asked them, tell me more about what's happening here. And they were like, well, oh, and a guy's yelling. There was that thing that shows he was talking. And I said, what's happening here? And they said, well, there's a big fence that doesn't allow them into the house. So homelessness, they knew houses existed. They didn't understand why they couldn't get to them, right? So I thought that was really fascinating. And then for hunger, they drew a grocery store with no groceries on the shelves. And I asked, what's happening here? And they said, well, they ran out of food, right? Because their experience is you go to the grocery store and you get to buy food, so there must not be any food if we've got hunger, right? So kind of looking at that aspect. So it was really an incredible experience to get to have this art show, and it happened the week just before graduation. So back to that shanty town, I had to get permissions to put that up, and it was May and it was snowing. It's December. It's still not snowing. That's crazy. Anyway, I was remembering that. And so the shanty town, just before graduation, Father Socorro contacted me and said, you have to take down your shanty town. It's not very attractive when graduation's going to happen. And I said, no, I got permission to have that up there. So I think it's important for families to see that we are, a civically engaged campus. And they allowed me to leave it up. Well, one day I was out there cleaning it up and getting the snow off. That's why I remembered that, and using sticks to pop up the boxes and stuff. And a woman walked by and she was like, she was talking to her son and she's like, oh, they call this art.
Oh.
And I was like, yeah, that's actually pretty cool. Because they asked me, well, what if a homeless individual moves into your shanty town? And I said, then we will have made them feel welcome, and I'm glad they'll be there. And I'm standing in line for baccalaureate, and the professor says, hey, I heard somebody moved into your shanty town. I said, are you serious?
Really?
He said, yes. I said, well, I'm glad. I'm glad we made them feel welcome, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the kind of stuff that the changing hearts and minds. And people were all like, oh, that must have been really sad when that woman said that to you. And I was like, no, because I did this project because I was in a class and the teacher asked if there was hunger in our community, and the class said no. Or was there homelessness? And the class said no. And I had just been part of the count of homelessness in our community. I'd been working with around hunger, and I was shocked that people in college didn't know these things were happening. So what I said about this woman coming by and being so upset about this display was she was our best advocate. you know, she told everyone about it.
Yeah. Word got
You
around
know?
fast.
The best PR ever. Some woman going around
Absolutely.
saying, you would not believe what they're doing at the university. So I was like, nope, that's perfect. We're spreading our message much further. So I think that's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing.
Mhm.
Beyond my research experience, that was very beneficial for me. Something that I always treasure is the summers that I spent on campus at Purdue. I would work for offices to gain some experience because I needed some work experience, and that's also really lended itself well to my current position. But one summer I worked with the help support the STAR program, and STAR stands for Summer Transition Advising and Registration. And so they would have all of the first year students would visit campus with their families, and that was the time when they could sit in on a class, and they could also the students would register for their first semester of classes. And so I was part of a team of students that would staff different areas around Purdue's campus, especially high traffic areas. And it was great to get to know those other students and from other departments. I didn't always have many opportunities to network outside with other departments. And so I really enjoyed that experience. It was great for me to see as well how different people on the team have different strengths. If someone is a pharmacy major, I can say, well, I don't know a lot about that. And there's a new freshman student coming in who's really interested in pharmacy. And I say, oh, you should talk to this person. And we had a parent or a grandparent of a student who primarily spoke Spanish and did not speak a lot of English. And I said, I personally enjoy Spanish, but not nearly fluent enough to have a full conversation. So being able to connect staff members and students with families and incoming students who benefit that was really something that I enjoyed. And then another summer I worked for the conduct office. It was the Office of Student Rights and Responsibilities. And so I kind of joked that I knew a lot of people's dirty laundry, but it was a really good experience for me when it comes to like being professional. And the students would come in to the office. I would be there at the front desk. I'm the last person they want to see. They hate everything about this experience, and just making them feel well, I don't welcome. It's a tricky dynamic there, but really respecting their dignity at a time when this may be the most difficult moment of their college career. They did something really embarrassing that they're ashamed of, and helping them to take those next steps and not feel attacked in that space. So those were two really beneficial experiences for me that really improve my perspective, and I think are really valuable in this role, as there are some similar complexities and nuances.
Oh, it's me. What is something I remember most about my college experience? A lot of stress. I would say, just again, being that non-traditional student coming in from the background that I came in from, not knowing how to navigate the educational system was very hard and stressful. I, at that time, had advisors, but they worked a little bit differently than they do now. I was not really shown the courses in which I should have been taking to get where I needed to go. It was more along the lines of, here we're meeting and here we are, and okay, cool, you're doing great, awesome, keep running with it, you're doing great. And so like the one thing I do remember is probably less positive, but just remembering the struggle that really ensued from day one. I would say again, I did well in classes, but the first couple of years I knew nothing about picking classes. I knew nothing about the direction I was going. I really didn't know anything about student loans, and that was the biggest thing for me because I was taking them and I didn't need them. So that's one thing I remember, because now I'm several $1,000s in debt. And my education was free, as I said earlier. Vocary had paid for it, and I had Pell Grants. So, and then on top of that, the AmeriCorps Educational Award that I was receiving from the 6 terms of service that I did, I had plenty of money. But in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, like student loans, they're offered, they're there. I need to take them. I need that money. I have to pay rent. I have to buy groceries. I have to do all these things. So I just kind of remember having a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety. But then also again finding that like home when I found my first term of service with AmeriCorps, just finding that sense of like belonging with other like-minded people that then kind of reduced a lot of that stress and anxiety for me, because then I always knew I had people to turn to for advice. Or, as we see now, all these years later, professional, development, because now I'm working with people that I have known all this time back when I was that student that was stressed and anxious and probably thought I wouldn't finish college, probably thought, I'm going to end up dropping out any day now. But here I am all these years later, still pursuing my education, and I am working with people that I love and trust, and that's a wonderful kind of feeling. So that's what I remember most about my college experience, is just that I got connected to the right people.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Can you tell me, for the three of you, when did you learn about Trio? And it was kind of hinted throughout the episode,
So
right?
I want to go first because
yeah,
we touched on this earlier, but again, so being that we work in Trio Upward Bound, I never knew about Upward Bound as a kid. Just throwing this out there, growing up in Texas, I did not know anything about Upward Bound. I'm sure there was one nearby, but it was not promoted. I didn't know what Trio SSS was until I was, like I said, pursuing my high set at the Dickinson Lifelong Learning Center, and a representative walks in. And actually, she just left the program just a few months ago, so she's been here the entire time since I was first recruited by her, which was amazing. Being able to then go from being a student that she recruited to come into college to now working, several doors down the same hallway from her, which was amazing for me. So that was my first introduction to Trio, to be honest.
For me, it was in my through my AmeriCorps service. Reflecting back on my time at Purdue, I see now that Purdue has several Trio grants that it hosts, and yet I've been racking my brain, but I really don't think that I was aware of Trio at the time. Bizarrely, I really don't think I was. I try to be pretty involved and knowledgeable of what was going on, but I really don't think so. So for me, it was my AmeriCorps service, and I was lucky enough to travel around the state with Dannette as a director. When I was the senior leader, we made 2 trips all the way around the state, once clockwise, once counterclockwise, just to keep things fresh.
Sure. Yeah.
And being able to visit those colleges, especially the tribal institutions, Fort Peck Community College, being able to meet the Trio SSS folks up there who do an incredible work. That's when Trio really became real to me, and something that I really understood its value.
Amazing. Thank you.
Well, the Trio support services was a vital part of my college experience, right? They helped me through a lot of things. I don't know, they must have been half the disability services as well, because they were the ones who helped me with note takers, and I would do, well, I only proctored one exam while I was there. So that was, mostly it was belonging and stuff. So I think I was hooked up with them immediately, but I didn't know about them in high school. And I was just looking because Montana Tech has a Upward Bound program in my high school now. So I had to look it up, and they didn't start with their Upward Bound programming in Anaconda, Butte, and Helena until 1993. So
Wow.
I'll age myself again. I was not in high school in 1993. But I think it's really important that it is there. But our program here at the university has been here since 1966.
Wow. So one of the first
Montana,
ones.
yeah,
Mhm.
we're
The
one of
first
the very
ones, yeah.
first ones. So Montana Tech took a while to, they have like all the programs now. They're quite fantastic. But I wish they had been around, although I don't know that it would have changed my life, but it could have changed like my sister's, right? When they just didn't know about financial aid and stuff, that could have been helpful for her, I think. Yeah.
Can you all describe the moment you graduated from college? What was that moment like for you and for your family?
Stressful.
Stressful, yeah. What was stressful about it?
Well, okay, so I did I have the dual bachelor's degrees, so one in psychology and one in art. I was the only one who was graduating in art. So they said, Dannette, we need you to go first to graduate. I was like, what? I was really hoping to watch somebody else because I haven't even graduated high school. I don't know how to do this. So
Yeah.
I was a little sad about that. But I graduated. I went across that stage and hadn't seen anybody else do it yet. As so the students were sitting right in front of the stage, and then the professors were off to the left-hand side where you went down the ramp. And when I got over to there, all of the professors gave me a standing ovation.
Oh, wow.
I thought that was standard. Turns out it was not.
No,
But
yeah.
one of the couple of my professors came out and gave me flowers. It was and hugs. It was really fantastic to be honored in that way. My husband, 4 children, siblings, my parents were there. My parents were super proud because I was their first child to go to college. And like I said, they never finished bachelor's degrees. So it was pretty new to them as well. My kids were super excited. My husband, who has been great. Like I said, we were high school sweethearts, so we're around the same age. He's older, but he was gray-haired back then, and somebody ran into him outside and said, "Congratulations that your daughter graduated." He
Oh
said,
my God.
"No, that was my wife." So when I keep talking about me being so old, I like to say that. And yeah, that actually reminds me of when we did that alternative spring break. Todd came along with us, and we were walking down the street one day, and a guy said that I was his daughter again. It was great.
Wow.
I think we're getting closer in age now, but maybe not. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, it was incredible, and to have my kids see it, right? To see their mom be successful and go first, and I didn't trip, and I was pretty sure I would. So
That's awesome. Congrats on not tripping.
that was by far my favorite part. I didn't trip.
Wonderful.
My college graduation was pretty overshadowed by the pandemic. The
Yeah, I'm sorry.
administration, yeah. It was a little unfortunate. Usually graduations are held at Elliott Hall at Purdue. It's this really beautiful event space. I think they always say it either has a few seats fewer than Radio City Music Hall, or maybe a couple more seats, one of those directions. But so unfortunately that couldn't happen, but the president and administration were really committed to still recognizing students. So we had it in the football stadium, and they were still able to have everyone and their families be able to be there and participate. They had a student section, and so we were spaced out as well. So being outside to ensure safety, and they had on the football viewing screens, they had pictures of each graduate, and then they had the name and the major as well of the degree. And so one moment before I walked into that stadium, I was going to stand with the College of Health and Human Sciences at Purdue, and I unfortunately picked a very bad place to stand. And I said, "Okay, line up with your college." So I said, "Okay." So I found my college, and then I stood in line. It seemed like a respectable place to be. But unfortunately, the line that I was in for my college was just about the last to go into the stadium to sit down. And so I'm standing and standing and standing. Everybody else is going in. And I realized I picked an incredibly poor place to stand. And I have some dress shoes on, trying to look nice. And so not the most supportive shoes. It was a
It could be a
challenge.
pain.
It was a challenge, but then I finally made it inside, and it was really cool to celebrate that moment. And my family was really excited as well, with my father having graduated from Purdue, so it was special for him as well. And my mother didn't graduate from college, and so it was especially meaningful for her in a different way to be able to see her son graduate, and the son she never did.
That's wonderful.
My story is short and sweet. I would just say definitely stressful, but also bittersweet and overjoyed. I would say just the idea that it was a long process and there were some hiccups in the road, and my time was not the traditional 4 years. And it was, yeah, a lot of stress, but also a lot of relief. I can leave it at that. I wouldn't say I had no family, so no family was around, just me. But I have a supportive staff and a good group of friends that are there to cheer me on, and that was always the best part of it.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that too, Xavier. Did you all know what type of career you wanted after graduation?
Yes.
Well, do you want to go?
Yes.
Yes.
I wanted to be a doctor of public health. I wanted to continue on and go into a doctor of public health. I mean, because like I said,
can.
I still can, and I just might. I just might. But
Awesome.
I never imagined myself working in Trio. I will say that it was not even in like the forefront of my mind. I had all kinds of plans for after college, and and then again to touch back on AmeriCorps, two of my last terms of service were here at Trio Upward Bound. The first was a summer position just for the summer academy 6 weeks, and I was like, yeah, a little extra money. This is great. The kids were
Right.
awesome. They were definitely different than anybody I'd ever worked with before. Um, and they apparently liked me so much, they asked me to stay on for a full year after that. And I was like, well, that's even better. So I would say after that first summer, again, I still didn't have any idea that I would be in Trio after that. But then that next year, being on a full year at this place and being in the schools daily with these students and working with the principals and the teachers and the counselors and the parents, it really started to open up my mind and expand my ability to like see the value that I was creating and the differences that I was making in these students' lives. And so at that point, I started to realize that maybe I would want a career in somewhere in education, whether it was something like this or something similar. So then I decided to, at this point, go towards, like I said, I'm working towards my master's in nonprofit administration because this is where now I see myself in the future. I definitely love what I do. What I do matters, and the students remind me of that every day.
That's awesome.
I definitely did not know what type of career I wanted. I can share a little bit more about how I came to find AmeriCorps. So initially, my plan was, oh, I got to go to graduate school, full steam ahead throughout undergrad. I have to get the highest grades possible. Have to get a publication, have to do research, and then I have to go to grad school. That's the easy next step for me. And I applied to, I believe, 7 graduate programs, and none of them worked out for one reason or another. And I was just kind of at a loss. I said, well, my entire life had been building to this moment, I felt like, and it didn't happen. And so I still, well, actually thinking about, I think maybe it may have been the recruiter with Montana Campus Compact at the time whose email I had received. I may have signed up in the AmeriCorps portal, learning about AmeriCorps as kind of the domestic Peace Corps. And those experiences at AmeriCorps both really helped shape me in what kind of impact I want to have. Because when I was with Spectrum Discovery Area, there are numerous children everywhere all the time, and it was hard for me to feel like I was having an impact over the long term. And I was building some cool connections with the children as they came in. One told me, I have 2 friends and you're one of them. Oh, but yeah, it was such a cool experience for me. But I was like, well, I want to be able to play a role where I can really have a greater perception of that impact. And then my second role with senior leader with Montana Campus Compact, that was a lot more administration, a lot more behind a desk type work, which I enjoy. But then I felt like I didn't have enough face time with the members that I was supporting. I thought, well, we had about 4 or 5 in-person trainings, and I thought, well, this isn't enough for me. I went from having a lot of interaction to now we had weekly Zoom meetings, but I felt like, oh, this just isn't enough interaction for me. So that both of those experiences and then working in student offices as well really shaped the direction and my perception of how I want, so what kind of career I want to have. And I feel like right now with Trio Upward Bound, it's such a good mix of that type of administrative office work, but then also many opportunities to be able to show up for the students throughout the academic year, and then summer as well, being able to really build those connections. So I feel like Trio Upward Bound is just the right mixture for me. And I'm glad that my meandering path has led me here.
Me too. So did I know what type of career? Well, I'll say when I was in undergrad, psychology was, counseling psychology is actually what my degree was in, and then art, right? And art therapy. I really wanted to be an art therapist, but a counseling psychology degree and a fine arts degree does not equal art therapy. So I got to go directly on for my master's. I had done AmeriCorps in undergrad, and then also the first year of my graduate work. And so I had a little money from that to go on to school. So I went into school psychology because neuropsychology, those kinds of things, the brain was really fascinating to me. So I went into school psychology, and here in Montana, it's like diagnosing, giving kids exams to figure out where their disabilities are, these kinds of things. So I was going through that really great. I finished all of my coursework in school psychology, and my husband got transferred to New Mexico, to Albuquerque. So I get down to Albuquerque, and school psychology in Albuquerque is a different animal. It's more of a crisis response, not what I had been trained in, so I couldn't do an internship. So I was able to continue going to school at the University of Providence, Great Falls, in distance learning. So I went into counseling. So I did all of the counseling courses that I could do from a distance. And then I would have had to fly to Montana to do group therapy. So I moved on to nonprofit administration, and we moved back to Montana. Todd retired, and we came back to Montana while I was still, I went to graduate work for 5 years full time. So we came back to Montana, and while we were down in Albuquerque, I worked in information security at the Starfire Optical Range, which was quite fantastic. I did have a top secret clearance. Tell you what I did, but then, that would be bad. I don't want to say what I was, the joke, because it seems inappropriate now. But anyway, we moved back up to Montana, and higher education has always been a passion of mine. I went to undergrad for 5 years, got 2 degrees, went to graduate school for 5 years, got the equivalent of 3. So education was important, so I applied everywhere at UM. And I was offered a position in clinical psychology, or to run the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute, or to work for the Osher Lifelong Learning Institute. And the dean of the continuing ed, which was where the Lifelong Learning Institute was, I thought she could be a really good mentor, and I decided that education was what I wanted to go into instead of counseling, because I think I too kind-hearted for counseling. I thought it might destroy me. Maybe, I don't know. I thought I would take home everybody's problems, so I went ahead and just finished my my master's in the science of organizational management and human development. That's what it ended up being. But I got all those other credits and they transferred on to my doctorate, so I'm super excited. But I didn't know what I wanted to be. At that time, I definitely wanted to be involved in education and at UM. And this, I mean, I think my counseling experience and work has lent itself very well to being the director of Upward Bound, because we do find that in the summertime, you really have to have a kind heart and an understanding of how to meet the kids where they are. So I think I'm using all of the skills that I've learned in college over the years in this position. So I think this is a great place for me to be.
That's wonderful. So usually when I speak with TRIO staff, the answers usually range from I was heading into education anyway to this was not something I ever thought of doing. Where does working for TRIO land on this spectrum for you?
At the time, it was definitely closer to, it wasn't something I thought of doing. I was really intent at the end of my undergrad. I was really intent on, I needed to be a researcher, thinking of academia, something along those lines. But now, in retrospect, reflecting back on it, I really enjoyed working with the conduct office. I really enjoyed working with summer orientations. So in retrospect, it feels like a very natural progression. But at the time, it was not something that I thought that I would do.
Oh,
Thank
me.
you.
Well, like I said earlier, my whole pathway was to become a doctor of some sort. I didn't even care if it was an anesthesiologist, doctor of public health. I just wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be important. That's all I knew. And
You are important.
again, TRIO
You
was
are.
not on my radar. TRIO was just who was helping me through college, and they did a really great job. There are some wonderful TRIO staff here, some that have left, some new ones that are returning actually members, which is great. But overall, just really such a supportive program that, again, I didn't think I would head into that direction. But the moment I stepped through these doors and realized that those people that were there from my very beginnings of college were still here, it meant that there was some sort of like special energy here that I could then tap into and kind of cultivate to, be my own as well. And so I'm so grateful because this is my home, TRIO's my home. And Upward Bound just happens to be, my address. But TRIO overarching is my home.
I like it.
Yeah.
love
Well,
that.
like I said, at the beginning, Voc Rehab said you should be an elementary teacher, and I said no, I shouldn't. That's a bad idea. Who do you think I am? I mean, I like my kids, other people's children. Are you kidding? So was I ready for TRIO? Probably not. But education is a passion. And then I got that opportunity to manage the AmeriCorps grant for 8 years and be the director and place AmeriCorps members around the state of Montana into TRIO programs. 470 placements over the years that I worked there. And so I got to work with these TRIO staff, and they're some of the best people ever. Amy Verlanik, Teresa Rader, Dan, absolutely. And I got to watch my AmeriCorps members get jobs in TRIO, right? Adam Mays was one of my first AmeriCorps college coaches, and put him in Havre, Montana, where we had they had the most snow in like the world. I don't know, something like that during the time he was up there, and it was so cold and sad. And then he went down to Butte and he became the director of Upward Bound for a while before I ever stepped into at Montana Tech. So seeing how TRIO was a family, right? And getting that opportunity to work with all these folks for all these years. When the director of TRIO Upward Bound came up, I was like, absolutely, I'm gonna try for this position because I think it's a natural progression in my career and also an opportunity to work with the TRIO family. around the state of Montana, and it's definitely been that for me. And then, like I said, I got to the AmeriCorps side of it. I got to bring my staff in from from AmeriCorps.
That's awesome.
So
Right on.
fantastic.
What is something you learned working in the TRIO program? So with Upward Bound, what is something you learned?
Ooh.
As I mentioned earlier, you know, the counseling, the psychology, having that heart for service, I think is vital for this position. And really being able to meet students where they are and engaging in active listening. And, you know, I know that I've learned that our students deal with a lot of trauma. And so really being trauma informed is vital for this position. So that's kind of definitely having those skills. You know, I said I didn't want to be a counselor because I would take on their world. So then being able to step myself back from their trauma and know that the work that we're doing with them is changing their lives. That's, yeah.
A big thing for me going back to impact is just how much of impact that we do have on the lives of our students, especially during our summer academy. We have a 6-week program, and since most of our students are 4 to 5 hours away, depending on how much snow's on the ground, we keep them on campus over weekends as well. So it is a pretty immersive experience when it comes to building community. And it's been really special for me to see just how much of an impact that we have through that opportunity. And Xavier was just sharing a story this morning of a student who really opened her heart, shared the many tremendous challenges that she was facing. They're difficult to fathom, and how our program has really brought her so much stability, and she's in such a better place now here at UM, starting a degree. So I'm really glad that we can provide that structure for students who desperately need it.
Stability.
Yeah, stability
Like
for
that.
sure.
I would say something I learned from TRIO programs, working in TRIO programs. TRIO works, right? That's the whole theme of this.
I love that.
Works.
Yes.
Yeah, it
Yes.
It really does.
Absolutely.
Again, coming as an SSS alum and then now working in the Upward Bound program, you know, and seeing it from the college aspect now down to the high school side of this, even further into ETS when you get into the middle school range. You know, we're like a stepping stone. It's really wonderful to see the programs work cohesively, to see the kids be able to go from that elementary aspect of like, oh, okay, this is an introduction, then to Upward Bound, and then, oh, I'm building my future now. I can do this. And then getting into college and saying, holy crap, I'm actually doing this now,
Yes.
and I'm going to make a difference. So that's what I've learned over this last time, you know, this last 3 years I've been working in the TRIO program, is just that it does work. It really does. If you work it, it works for you. So that's a big deal for me. Yeah.
Sorry, just dropped something. Talk about your TRIO program. When was it first established, and what should the audience know about your program? And all three of you can have a different take, or you can assign Dannette to talk about the TRIO program. Up to you.
Well, as we mentioned earlier, UM TRIO Upward Bound has been here since 1966. We have served over 3,000 students over those years. And so our programming is here in Missoula in the 3 high schools. We were only in 2 high schools. We've been in the 3rd high school for the last couple of years. And then up on the Blackfeet Nation. So at Browning High School. And we did just add Heart Butte 2 years ago, or when this last grant was written.
Yeah.
Heart Butte and Sentinel were both added at that time. And I think that it's unique. We do have another staff member. Maybe we should have invited her. We didn't. Oops. Up in Browning, she's an academic advisor, works in the high school up in Browning. So that's really fabulous to be able to support those students that way. And like I said, we do try to travel up there as a team as often as we can. The students definitely enjoy seeing us. We went up the beginning of the month and did a workshop and had some pizza. Those kinds of things are are important to support these students, and seeing how much they really enjoy Xavier. They're always super excited that Xavier's coming to town. I'm
That
like,
is
but what
awesome.
about me? And they're kind of okay with me too. And Jonathan. But
I'm the fun one.
it's and the advisor who's always face to face with the kids, right? I mean, that's what I said about that first summer.
Absolutely.
I was the disciplinarian.
Mm.
So it's
Oh,
like
oh,
really
yeah.
hard to build relationships when I step in as that. So I changed up some things for this last summer, and it was less of that, right? We really decided that we wanted to meet the students where they were, right?
Mhm.
Instead of having a very strict, they had a strikes and balls or
Strikes and
some
fouls.
fouls. And kids were always in trouble the first summer because they had this very rigid behavioral plan. And I was like, I started during the summer saying, there's got to be a better way to do this. And
Mhm.
so I think we implemented a better way. We had good conversations with kids this summer. We met them where they were. We redirected them. And we had many less issues with our students last summer. So I think, I don't know how that's not telling you about our program, is it? Sure it is.
Yeah, it is. It's part of it.
Well, and the other really great thing was that we got a lot of opportunities to do experiential learning and very STEM focused last summer. We got an external grant we had one from OPI, which was the ESSER funds. So that was the COVID funds that have been now they're gone now, but we had those
Mhm.
funds, and then the Unite STEM grant as well, which really allowed us that opportunity. We got to travel to Montana State University, to a nanotechnology conference, and to Yellowstone National Park. And we got to go up to the biostation on Flathead Lake. So we really got to do a lot more experiential learning. We went to the sculpture garden up by Lincoln and to Garnet Ghost Town, which was quite fantastic. So a lot more travel and stuff this last summer than we were able to do because we had some external grants. What else do we want the audience to know about our programming? Our students are incredible.
Mhm.
They're incredible.
Absolutely.
They're dealing with a lot in their lives, and they still come back all the time and want to be engaged. And I think that's
awesome.
fabulous.
Mhm.
What else?
Xavier and Jonathan, anything else you want to add?
I mean, just from my point of view, just being able to see some of these kids, since I'm the one who's been here the longest, as the AmeriCorps volunteer in the beginning, that first summer, I met a lot of these kids that are now graduating and that just graduated last year. And so I met them when they were first entering the program, and to see the transition from then to now, it's such a beautiful thing to be privileged enough to be a part of that experience for them and to be that person that gets to help make some of those decisions with them, and navigate the systems with them. So I would just say yeah, just being able to work with these kids it's just amazing, and to watch them grow. And these kids are resilient. Some of these kids come from, very, very, how would I put it in a really good way? Hard backgrounds, very hard backgrounds, some of these students.
Absolutely.
And so to some of these students,
Absolutely.
we are that parental figure for them. We are that trusted advocate for them. We are that person that they will go to and tell everything to, because they know they feel safe and secure. So just being able to have that kind of environment established and cultivated for them, it's really a wonderful thing.
Mhm. As I understand it, our program, as Dannette was saying, was part of the second round of UB grants that were awarded back in 1966. So there's that initial group in 65, and then as I understand it, in 66, we were part of that second group or second wave, which is very cool. Such a rich legacy. I have started scanning some of our older pictures. We have several photo albums downstairs in our basement and up here as well. And I've started posting them on our Facebook and Instagram pages. And it's been really cool to see alumni recognizing themselves and others and sharing that and tagging people. So there's such a sense of community there that's really special. And Dannette and Xavier gave me a tough act to follow, but I really echo what they shared. And I tend to be a bit more behind the scenes during summer with my reporting and budgeting and such, but still the interactions that I've had with students during the summer are incredibly rewarding.
That's awesome. Also, do we want to give a quick shout out to Hannah? I just had to look her up real quick. That was the other staff member that was missing?
Yeah, Hannah. Hannah's been here for 3 years, so she was here before I ever got here. And when we do surveys and things, the kids are like, Hannah really helped me to plan for college and find funding to go to college. She's really good with finding scholarships and supporting the students. She gets the great opportunity of being right there in the high school with a classroom. And now they've got a couple of other programs. The Educational Talent Search is in there, and Hopa Mountain. So now there's a whole group of adults in there that are helping students be successful. And Hannah brings a unique aspect. She's from the Blackfeet Nation and can really connect with our students up there. What else?
About Hannah?
Yeah.
Hannah's an amazing, optimistic person. She's always got goals for her future and for the future of our students. And she is just that person that will show up. And when the kids come in there, she will sit there and talk with them. And it's wonderful. And like Dannette said, I'm kind of jealous of Hannah just a little bit, I want to say, because I work in all 5 of these high schools. But in the 3 high schools I'm primarily in down here in Missoula, we don't have a classroom. We don't have a dedicated space other than after school tutoring that I can be in during the day. So it's much harder for me to connect with them daily other than during like times like advisory or study hall.
Right.
So I kind of a little bit jealous that she gets a whole classroom to then have kids stop in and visit her throughout the day. So I envy her a little bit, but yeah, no, she's a pleasure to work with.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, are there any highlights about your program that you'd like to individually note for the audience?
What I wrote down here was partnerships. I think partnerships are a really important part of this, and I think we as a team have really worked to expand our partnerships since I took over and hired these 2 incredible individuals to help us. My first summer we did have, so one of our English teachers was going on to get her graduate degree in school counseling. So she did kind of an internship with us my first summer, and all the students already knew her, or some of the students knew her because she had been doing the English class for the couple of summers before that. And so having her on hand to do one-on-one counseling and just kind of be there when we did have any trauma. Every summer, our students end up losing. We lost, like the first summer, 4 individuals died over our summer. Aunties, uncles, siblings. It's been a rough couple of summers. So to have a counselor on hand to really sit down with them and talk to them was huge. So this last summer, we were able to bring on the Happiness Project, which is here at the university. It had 4 graduate counseling students, and the Happiness Project is a evidence-based project to help reduce suicides across the state. They're trying to get into all the high schools, but it really is helping kids understand how to be happy and to focus on that. So they came in and they offered group counseling to our students. We broke them up into the rising 9th and 10th graders, rising 11th and 12th graders. And then they also offered one-on-one. So they were able to work consistently throughout the 6 weeks with about 18 of our students one-on-one. And they're continuing to counsel them now. Some of them up on the Blackfeet Nation and here in town via Zoom or a safe way to do that, telehealth kinds of stuff. So I think that was really an incredible part of this, was being able to find people on campus that could support our program in that way, and really making sure that we have partnerships in the community, on campus, to help build up our program. We're also able to offer 1 high school credit for our students in the summer, and 2 college credits to our 11th and 12th graders. They do like a dual enrollment course, and it's focused on college attainment type stuff, but they get 2 college credits over the summer as well. So really, that is a huge aspect of our programming as well. And you guys?
And piggybacking off of that, when it comes to partnerships, another thing that we're really excited about and proud of from this past summer is we had a partnership with Mountain Health Gives, their Little Peeps project, and they were able to partner with Envision Eye Care here in Missoula, and through both of their very kind work with our students, we were able to provide free glasses and contacts to students who needed them. And our students often shared that they wouldn't have been able to have contacts otherwise if it weren't for this program. So we really appreciate that partnership, and are always looking for innovative ways that we can serve our students better and better meet their needs, meet them where they are.
I would say some highlights from my aspect of our program are kind of, again, harkening back to the whole being able to be there and step in to be supportive for these students when guardians or parents are not always able to be for whatever reason. So just showing up to concerts, showing up to different theater productions, being able to be those people that they can rely on that are going to show up and support them and cheer them on. And then also I would say just the ability to then partner with other community members or organizations that have also found our cause to be worthy. And so they have donated to us and supported us. Some in clothing or activity, things like a couple summers ago, we got a whole bunch of rafts donated to us by the Moose Club, which allowed us to then take our kids, rafting down the Clark Fork, which was an amazing experience for them. Being able to get Clearwater Credit Union, which is a local credit union of ours, to donate money that we could then buy our t-shirts for our students and decorate them the way we wanted to make them really nice and comfy and cool looking instead of just, an average kind of a t-shirt with Trio Upward Bound on it. It was really awesome. And then, just being able to, again, just be that person or that entity that is always able to be relied upon. So I feel like that's one of the biggest highlights for me. For me, for sure.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So then I'm going to kind of shake up the question here. What has been the most rewarding or most impactful thing aspect of working with Trio Upward Bound? And I'm going to really stick with the rewarding part because it sounds like you really took something away from here.
So I kind of want to, it'll piggyback off my last statement, but so I want to share kind of a story from the summer that kind of really impacted me, that really has just resonated with me since. We were getting ready for our 4th of July family picnic, and I had went and purchased, I think, 30 pounds of meat and to feed all these students and their families.
Yeah.
And so one of our students that we referenced earlier that had just graduated high school that we brought in to be a junior RA, which was also something new that we had done just to kind of give her a foot in the door towards stepping into that first semester in college so she could have some money, so she could have the experience. And then also just because we thought she was just truly ready. She was just an amazing leader as a student. Well, at this point in time, we were marinating the meat the night before 4th of July. And we had just had just a little conversation, and she had relayed to me that, again, based on her family dynamic and what she kind of grew up with, how she didn't really have a lot of family to rely upon. And she was really very happy to have someone like me and like us in her lives. And that, she kind of looked up to me as a father figure. And to be told something like that from a student that I'd met several years ago that I just didn't know that I would ever be close to in any of those ways or ever work with. was very rewarding for me because it really showed me that the choices and the decisions that I've made and the conversations that I've had and the interactions that I've created really meant something to this student. And if it was, this student as well, I mean, how many other students then that didn't say something? How many other students have I impacted? Because I know if I did it for one, I've done it for multiple. So it was really rewarding just to kind of have that kind of feedback from her, just reaffirming that, I'm in the right place at the right time doing the right thing.
Awesome.
The most rewarding aspect for me would be really seeing that sense of community that develops in the summer. Being 6 weeks, including weekends, it is pretty immersive as we've said, and seeing the students really grow those bonds with one another is super cool to see. I remember on the first day, on move-in day, the first couple hours, some of the students were pretty nervous, pretty anxious. This may be their first time away from home, and home is 4 to 5 hours away. And so there's a lot that they are dealing with in that moment, a lot of nerves, a lot of anxiety. And then to see that transformation from then to the award ceremony at the end of the summer, really seeing how much that community has grown has been really special. One story that I'll share is there was a student who had sadly lost a relative and was clearly very emotional, really struggling in that moment. And the other students and her peers really came to her and said, oh, you should really connect with one of the counselors. And fortunately, one of the counselors was available, and they were able to have a conversation in that moment when she clearly needed to. So it was really impactful for me to see how much that community had grown and how much the students care for one another and want each other to be successful.
Most rewarding.
Yes.
Well, of course, seeing the students find belonging in our program is huge. But
That
I
is
think,
huge.
like I said, my first summer, I actually started full-time the first week of summer academy. So that was, an interesting time for me. I didn't get to plan any of it. I just got to jump right into the middle of it. So I didn't really know what my role was. And like I said, there was a lot of strict discipline. All right. And so I tried to play along with that idea. And so I think that those opportunities where I did get to spend time one-on-one with students and have them start to see me as somebody who could support them, right? Like this summer, I'll ride with Dannette. That's huge, right? Because last summer I felt like I was, very stand off, didn't really know what I was doing. They didn't know what to expect from me. But this summer that I'll ride with Dannette and wanting to be with me and listening to music and hooking their phones to my car, all that kind of stuff. Really fantastic. And then
That's huge.
the opportunities to really the times that I get to do one-on-one is if they are having problems or in trouble at all, or when they need to go see a doctor. So I've taken a lot of kids. The first summer there was 14 trips to the ER. Last summer it was less than that. But last summer we did have a student who had a seizure, and then we found out she had a brain tumor, and that has been she's had surgery. She's doing fabulous. We just saw her recently, but Xavier and I got to be right there while she learned that she had a brain tumor. So just knowing that we're there for them and supporting them, I think is huge. But yeah, I know that's weird, but yeah. And then seeing her again and having her be so excited to tell us how great she's doing and how the surgery went and everything. I mean, it's rewarding and difficult and heart-wrenching all at the same time.
Now for the biggest question for this interview. How do you recharge after an academic year or after a summer program? What do y'all do to recover your energy?
I think debrief meetings are a big one for us. Definitely talking through what has happened, thinking about how we responded. Is there a way that we could have responded better? How can we be better for the future? That's definitely one where a big one for our program, meeting with the residential advisors that we have and say, okay, how did this situation play out? How did you respond? And let's think about how we can grow and be better in the future, which hopefully this challenging situation won't happen again. But in the event that it does, we shall be more prepared.
Right.
I took a cruise. That's how I recharged.
Cruise.
I
Okay.
took a 9-day vacation time down to the Caribbean. I went down and had a really good time. I never take vacations. I have never had the opportunity to really afford to do this. So being in a position in which I was privileged enough to have that opportunity, I can say this right now, it was a very life-changing experience because it really helped me to realize that self-care is a very real thing. And it is a very important thing, especially when you work in a position such as ours, where we work with kids with a lot of trauma. Because we're all such kind-hearted people that we do tend to then take on that trauma. I know I am guilty of that often, taking that trauma home with me and then letting it fester in my mind and thinking of all the ways, how can I help? How can I make it better? How can I do something more? But the reality is, this is life, and all we're doing right now is what we're doing. It's the best we can do, and what we're doing matters, and it helps. So I'm really grateful at the opportunity to be in that position to do that. And then, going back to the recharge aspect of it, you've got to be able to be healthy to help others, right? Just kind of like on a plane, put your mask on first before you, place the mask on somebody else. But the reality is, taking care of yourself. That's how I did it. I decided I'm going to go away out of the country, turn my phone off, and just be me on the sea. It was great.
In a hurricane.
Absolutely.
In a hurricane. During the hurricane.
Oh, is this a story?
Milton? It was Milton, right?
Oh, no. Yeah.
Milton. I think it was Milton. Is that the name of it? It was Milton?
It was one of them around that time.
Yeah,
I
think it was Milton. Yeah, so it was in November or October. So it was it was October 4th. So it was Milton, I'm pretty sure. We left the port of New Orleans right as the hurricane was forming. And we got about an hour or two out to sea, and I had gone to sleep and decided I'll just, because it was a long trip there from Montana to get to New Orleans when we had missed our connecting flight. Thank you, American Airlines. It was great. Thank you so much. But then we ended up having to drive from Dallas Fort Worth because we missed our connecting flight. We rented a car and drove to New Orleans. So I got no sleep that first night and woke up after I passed out that next day, woke up to a rocking ship and my sliding glass door going open, close.
Oh,
open,
no.
close. And all I could think of is, what's happening here? This seems like a dream. I'm not sure what's going on. I walked out in the hallway and there was they have these TV screens on all these cruises and it shows you where you're at in the world. And all I see is our big ship in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico and this giant hurricane right behind us.
Oh, no.
And the captain all of a sudden came on the speaker and was just like, by the way, everything is fine, but we wanted to let you know the Hurricane Milton is 200 and some odd nautical miles away from us, and we are increasing our speed. We can get you safely to where we're going. So I was not terrified. It was actually quite intriguing. I really enjoyed it, but that's what I did to recharge.
Right on.
Yeah, and I will be doing it again every year. For the record, every year after summer, that is, I highly suggest take a cruise. Take a cruise.
Take a cruise. Wonderful advice. Dannette?
I think for me, I focus on my family and my grandkids. My sister was up here this summer, so really trying to spend more time with them. My sister, it lives down in Florida now, so that hurricane tried to get her while she was down there, but she didn't get to be out of the way of it. But then, we got to do a lot of traveling. So going back up to the sculpture garden. I'm like, oh, you guys have got to see this sculpture garden, and bringing them out there. And we need to go to Garnet Ghost Town as well. So just kind of finding a way to connect with my family and do some fun things in Montana.
That's awesome. All right. So another big question for the three of you. Chemistry in a team is very important for morale and for support. How do you all maintain a strong team bond and a supportive environment for your staff and for your students?
Well, I think Jonathan said a lot of it is that debriefing too, right? And it doesn't just happen after summer academy. It happens throughout summer academy. It happens every day. We sit down together and talk about what's happening with our students and how we can do better. So I think that's important. I think, again, that AmeriCorps service and the heart of service that all of us have, that service mindset is really important. And then we just make sure that we're having a good time and spending some time together and taking care of each other.
Summer comes to mind for me with this question. We have a week-long training for our residential advisors each summer, because we really want them to build connections and build that relationship with one another as well. So they feel really close with one another, and they feel like they can trust one another as well. So that's something that we really emphasize. And then something else that comes to mind is how for our the evenings in the summer, each of our RAs can bring their own skills, their own interests, and have their own club night. And so we had one RA this past summer who's really into gaming, and so his club night revolved around gaming, and several of our students were also big gamers. He was able to have them participate in a meet here on campus, which was a really cool experience for them. UM has recently just opened a beautiful new esports space in our university center, and is really increasing the investment there, which is really cool. So I would say that is the biggest thing, just really building that positive environment. Let's lean on one another's interests and skills and talents. How can we grow as a team? How can we better serve the students?
That's awesome.
I completely agree with Jonathan with all of that. And to piggyback on that, just kind of, just having that mindset of, we are a team, we are a family, and just making sure that we're there to listen and then also to act. Because we all have our own individual goals, but we also have a team goal and a focus, and just making sure that we're all able to bring our skills to the table and, communicate consistently and do a lot of our team building together. We attend trainings together. Anytime we travel, we pretty much travel together. We're a very small office. There's only 3 of us in our office. Hannah's up in the Blackfeet Nation. So it's a lot easier for us in this office to do team building. And so we do that regularly. That is something we pride ourselves on.
And when we went up to Browning just recently, we did do a half day where we could be with Hannah as well and do some team building and 2 truths and a lie, all those fun things that really open you up to understand people more clearly, or be a little afraid of them. One of those things. But yeah.
How can, if someone was interested in working with Upward Bound or any of the TRIO programs, how can they build the resume to do that?
AmeriCorps service.
AmeriCorps, nice
This
plug. I
is
like
an
the plug.
AmeriCorps
I wish
commercial.
AmeriCorps would sponsor the podcast.
You said we were talking trio, but it looks like we're talking AmeriCorps way more.
Service, right? Working with youth, right? Working with youth, working with college students, working with college attainment type things is very important, I think.
Absolutely.
While you're in college, being a tutor or being a
residential
advisor, those kinds of things are definitely really good when we're looking for our RAs in the summertime. Finding resident advisors, those kinds of things are important for the program. So I think that and a passion for working with kids and an understanding that it's not easy work, but it's important.
Making sure they're trauma informed.
Trauma
Trauma informed, big time.
Big fun.
So somebody who's done like social work or psychology or any of that kind of stuff could do really well here.
Anybody else want to chime in on that one?
I would say in a college setting, if you're working for say SSS, or if you're more interested in high school, if you are interested in high school, look for ways to volunteer as a tutor. If there aren't any, look for the type programs. I'm thinking of things like Big Brothers Big Sisters and other programs like that, where you can be involved, start to build those connections with high school age students, and start to get a sense if that is where you want to go. And also thinking about like student affairs offices working for housing and dining, orientation, conduct on campus, so you can start to build those connections on a campus, and then also with students to help you better inform your path forward.
Absolutely.
And I will throw AmeriCorps in here again, but only because doing AmeriCorps service, like Jonathan found, it gives you that opportunity to determine whether or not you want to work with kids, right?
Absolutely.
Jonathan worked with very little kids and then discovered that maybe more administrative or working with older kids is a good idea. So that service opportunity gives you that, and you don't have to do AmeriCorps to do service, right? It gives you a look at whether or not you want to work with this age group. I had an AmeriCorps college student AmeriCorps member, so you can serve in college for the program that I ran, who wanted to be a pediatrician, or so he thought he did. And then he worked with us at tutoring elementary school kids, and about 3 months into his service, I said, "Do you want to be a pediatrician?" And he said, "Absolutely not." So really that opportunity to do some service and find out what you really want to do, right? I think that's important.
Most UB programs follow a certain structure, whether it's weekly or bi-weekly meetings or maybe monthly. What sets your program apart from traditional upward bound programs?
Well, we're one of the longest lasting programs. I mean, that's pretty fantastic. And our summer academy, like we said, is 6 weeks over the weekends as well, because we know that a lot of programs, even in around here, they get to send their, or they send their students home, they send their students home on the weekends.
Yeah. And Dannette, I don't mean to interrupt you, but as I understand, the upward bound programs have, at least from what I understand, they've started slowly phasing out the in-residence programs, and you're one of the few that actually have the in-residence program.
Yeah. Yeah,
wow.
So we live right here in Elrod, and I'll tell you, the pictures that Jonathan has been pulling together with one of our former Upward Bound students turned RA is now our work study. So again, we just keep pulling them in and keeping them around. And our summer RAs were also AmeriCorps members. So I'm just saying.
Okay, now I need to definitely connect with AmeriCorps, see if they will sponsor this podcast.
You should get a sponsorship for this one for sure. And I forgot what we were talking about. So
the question is, what sets your program apart?
Right. Why are we? So we do the weekly after school programming and monthly Saturday programming. And then like Xavier said, I think what's really unique is that we understand that some of our students don't have the same supports at home as many other students would. So Jonathan and Xavier do a really great job of showing up to graduations, showing up for concerts, showing up for one of our students is going to be singing the national anthem at a basketball game soon, right? So they're asking us to be there. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
And also showing up is really important. So I think that maybe sets us apart from traditional programs, is that we, 5 o'clock is not the end of the day. But we do want to make sure that we have a work-life balance. So we go on cruises.
With hurricanes that are
In
right.
fairness,
Okay.
in fairness, I invited both of these two on that cruise because it was paid for. Both declined. Both declined. In fairness.
I didn't have a passport. Come on.
You did not need one for if you're touching back into the same state that you left from, you're good. You don't need a passport.
Good to know. Good to know.
Our program is also unique in that about 2/3 of our students are from the Blackfeet Nation, and that we are able to support them from so far away. And the legacy around that. And that's all I've got here.
Anybody else want to jump in? Okay. Looking ahead, 5 to 10 years from now, what's next for you?
Well, I'm gonna have my doctorate in educational leadership. So I'm gonna be a professor here at the university. Yeah, that's my plan. And then I'll get to see our students as they enter college, and I'll get to teach them there. Right?
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
I think that's good. We're also gonna write for the talent search grant, so hopefully we'll have that going on here as well.
For me, after I finish my master's, I would like to stay in the trio world and become a director one day is my goal. So that is where I'm at as I can start my education.
Awesome.
I am in the same boat as these two, except for I don't want to be a professor. I definitely want to be a director at some point. I feel like the last almost 3 years that I've been here is leading me in that direction. So my goal is to have my master's finished by then as well, and have had my foot in the door, and hopefully have an opportunity to then step up.
Y'all, we're at the home stretch of this podcast. What is some advice you have for trio participants, whether they're pre-college, college, or thinking about returning or going back to college?
The big thing for me, and I said this on the first day of our summer academy, and I said it again at the end at the award ceremony. I said, you deserve to be here. You deserve to be a college student. I, myself, and Dannette and Xavier, all of the RAs who are also here, we all believe in you and your success. We are invested in that, and we are here to help you get to that point. So I would say my biggest piece of advice is never give up on yourself. You deserve to follow your dreams and achieve them. Don't sell yourself short.
I love that.
Nice. How do you follow that?
Right. Trio works.
Trio works. Absolutely.
What I wrote down here is you are stronger than you realize,
Mhm.
and that there is money for school, and we can help you find it.
I love that.
My advice is just never take no for an answer. Yes, you can. You can always do it. There are always people here to help. You just have to ask the right people the right questions, and there are so many opportunities for you. Never give up.
Wonderful. I love that. Very wonderful advice from all three of you. That's great. Now I'm going to flip it a little bit. If you had all the trio professionals across the United States in one room, what would you like to say to them? What are some advice or words of encouragement you would say to them?
Well, I think, as we've mentioned before, I think it's really important to be trauma informed. So if you are not, you should get some professional development around that. And emotional intelligence is really important as well when working with students. And also recognizing that poor behavior doesn't mean a bad kid, but rather that they are struggling. So meet them where they are and figure out what's going on and how you can help them. And really important to have in your back pocket whenever working with young people is the crisis text line 741-741 or 988. They can text or call 24/7. Somebody is there to help them when the trio staff is not available.
My biggest piece of advice would be to not undersell or discount the impact that you have on the lives of students. It may not always be immediately apparent in the short term, but over the long term, it's been really special and powerful to see how big that impact is. And to go back to our theme of AmeriCorps, if there are any programs out there that are struggling with finances, it would be great to have another staff member, and their budget just doesn't allow that. AmeriCorps does have a cost share where you can hire, I say in quotes, we're cracking up over here. You can hire an AmeriCorps member to be that tutor, to be that administrative support for a dramatically reduced cost. There is an organization called Campus Compact, as we've been alluding to, the state affiliations have since transformed. The organization no longer has those affiliations in place, but there are in each state, or often a collection of states, there will be a campus compact. It may be something different now, as we've said with the Montana Campus Network for Civic Engagement, but they often host education-focused AmeriCorps grants, and they're often a great resource to talk to about this. State service commissions as well can make those connections.
That is really fantastic information to give to TRIO programs, because we understand how tight these grants are, and to be able to expand your reach with an AmeriCorps full-time like Xavier was, and or part-time college students that can do service as well, it's huge. And college students can be work study. So it's really a fantastic benefit, and thank you for thinking of that, Jonathan. Yeah. Where did you come up with that idea?
My words of encouragement, I wouldn't necessarily say advice, but my words of encouragement would just be, you are all special people. It takes very special people to be able to do the work that we do. I don't think it just takes a degree and an ability to do the job requirements. I think it definitely takes a very special personality to really fit into this organization, and then to truly make a big difference. So I just say, keep doing what you do, and remember that what you do matters. So, and give yourself a pat on the back, because, this is not easy work, but it's really rewarding. And at the end of the day, everybody that you do impact, they are thanking you, whether they tell you face to face or not, they are thanking you. And just remember that.
Absolutely. What are you listening to, reading, or watching, whether it's TV, film, music, podcast, or books?
One film that's really stayed with me and resonated with me when it comes to this work is Mickey and the Bear. It's a 2019 indie, kind of flew under the radar a bit, but it really speaks to the situations that our students often find themselves in. The character in the movie, played very impressively by Camila Morone, really has a very difficult home life. She's trying to hold her household together nearly single-handedly, and that has just really stayed with me as we hear from our students the challenges, the traumas that they're dealing with, and how in the film she engages with that issue. That's really something that's resonated. I'll also shout out, there is a book that was just published by K.A. Cobell, who's a Blackfeet author. It's called Looking for Smoke, and it is about the missing and murdered Indigenous women and relatives movement. It's a mystery thriller, and it has a bit of a young adult approach, but it's still very rich to the material. So those are two things that I would recommend.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mine's a little more lighthearted. Okay, I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Go for
I
it.
love that. I love Jonathan's take on things. He's a wonderful human. Mine is I just recently started reading the Throne of Glass series. So I'm on the very first book. Just started. I'm really excited. My partner got me into reading these books, so I'm really excited. The author is Sarah J. Maas. I'm really looking forward to finishing this series. It's a high fantasy series about a corrupt government working. These people are working to free slaves, and there's a lot of magic in it. So, kind of relative to what is happening in the world. And then what I'm watching on TV. We just finished Agatha All Along on Disney.
Oh,
And
wonderful.
I'm a Marvel person. I do like the Marvel world, and so I of course watched WandaVision first and was obsessed with WandaVision because the Scarlet Witch is amazing. And so then of course naturally when Agatha All Along came out, I was like, oh my gosh, yes, this is great. Catherine Hahn, great actress. So that's where I'm at. And then podcast wise, I love listening to Rachel Maddow's Deja News. I think she is just so on point and just so interesting to listen to and her take on things. And she really explains it in a way that the average person can really take in. And so, yeah, I'm very grateful to have all of those things currently in my life entertaining me when I am not working.
Yeah, there you go. I love that.
Oh, and one more thing. I have one more. I have recently started gaming again, because of course I came from the generation of World of Warcraft and like Morrowind, Elder Scrolls back when online gaming first started. Haven't played since then, and then recently just got back into gaming, and now I am gaming and I am playing Baldur's Gate 3. It is amazing, and I am at the very last act, and we are so close to beating this game, so I just wanted to plug that. Because it's exciting, and I have spent it. Apparently, we looked yesterday, and about 107 hours into this game. We only had it for a month. I want to put this out there. We've only had it for a month. That's dedication. That is dedication. I'm just saying. So I have found a way to unplug a little bit, sort of. But yes, that's where I'm at. That's me.
Xavier and I really quickly. So I'm very much a Marvel fan. So I don't know if you know, and it's my Captain America shirt.
Yeah,
very
I saw
much,
that.
very much a huge Marvel fan. And yeah, my daughter and I were watching Agatha All Along. She was so sucked into the series. We loved it. Wonderful series. And yeah, I started her off on WandaVision. Well, her and my other sons as well. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. I love where Marvel television is really starting to take off in its thing. But I also love the overarching MCU. So I agree with you. And with video games, the last thing I'll say is, so my Baldur's Gate is Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. That's where I've been stuck. I'm still in the last part of the game that I've not beaten yet because I'm the type of guy that like once I get to the close end, I'm like I'm gonna share this a little bit more. I don't want to finish it just yet.
Yeah.
So I haven't beaten it.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Just savoring those last pieces. We're kind of just now doing all the side quests instead of the main quest to finish. Now we're like, let's go back and see what's still available. Let's just go expand the storyline a little bit. Yeah, so
100%.
Oh man, it's so much fun. It's so much fun.
Dannette, what about you?
All right, what about me? Well, definitely the Agatha All Along and WandaVision. Those were fantastic. We just realized that today, which is interesting because, like we said, we've known each other forever, and just today we're like, what? So very excited there. Wicked. We actually took our students to Wicked last Saturday.
Oh, awesome! That's great.
And that was the second time I saw it, and the 12th time for you, or what?
Third time for the movie for me, and I saw the play twice. So very much a Wicked fan.
So yeah, Wicked fan for sure. And this other thing I put down here was the Pink concert. So Pink came to town.
Oh, nice.
And all three of us purchased tickets for Pink like way before Summer Academy ever happened. But that was part of our getting past the difficultness of summer was we all got to go to the Pink concert.
That is awesome.
Yeah, and while we were at the Pink concert, our students and some of our, we have a Friends of UB board, and they do fundraising to give scholarships to our students, to our seniors. So that's another unique thing about us. We have a UB board that does scholarships every year. And one of the ways that they make money is they do concessions at concerts. So they were doing concessions at the concert during Pink, and one of our students was there volunteering as well to help us get those scholarships. So I think that's pretty fantastic. And then I do enjoy that Rachel Maddow podcast that you introduced me to on our trip to Browning. But I think my new podcast that I'm really excited to start listening to is Let's Talk Trio.
Oh, I love the plug. I loved it. Thank you, Dannette. That was a beautiful plug.
Look at that. And I just want to throw out there at the Pink concert, I was in the front row and I got to shake Sheryl Crow's hand I have it on my
What?
app.
That's awesome.
To throw that out there. It was amazing. I grew up with Sheryl Crow and Pink. I mean, I am a child of the 80s and 90s, so I'm sorry, that was the most amazing concert I have ever been to. I've been to many. Snoop Dogg came to town like 7 or 8 years ago, and I went to that concert here, and that was great. The Warren G tour, it was great. Don't get me wrong. But
Right.
at the same time, Pink, that lady can deliver. I mean, her ability to do acrobats as well as sing at the same time. And I mean, and I'm telling you, they had her propelled. I don't know if you know anything about our university, but we have a huge stadium. She was propelled all over this stadium, all over the entire audience by a wire and doing flips while she was doing it and singing at the same time. It was
Wow.
just phenomenal.
Yes. So I am going to ask for pictures from the three of you so we can start promoting and marketing the episode. But Xavier, if you want to provide that handshake photo, if you have it,
100%.
I'd love
100%.
to
I will.
include it
I
on
got you.
Instagram.
I got you.
Perfect. Well, this is going to be the most challenging and most difficult question I will pose to you for the night. Describe yourself using only one word.
Oh no.
I'll go first, and
Go
I
for it,
will
Jonathan.
say focused.
Focused. I love that. Yes.
Go ahead, Dannette.
Well, I have 2 words down here. No, I'm just kidding.
You're breaking the rules, Dannette.
I'm going to go with persistent.
Persistent. What? That's really good.
Princess.
Princess. Okay. Absolutely.
I'm the princess of the office. I want all the things. I want
Bougie.
all the expensive things. Bougie. I'm bougie. No, I would say relentless or persistent for sure. Relentless maybe, because I don't take no for an answer, especially when it comes to my students or my staff. Whenever there's something that I see the need for, with my kids, for example, you know, there was a college tour we went on a couple years ago, and a lot of our students, I think we took 25 students that time, and we went to Utah State, Idaho State, Montana Western, and we had our first snow of the season, and it was quite a large snow, and unfortunately 85% of our kids came and did not even have the proper footwear, jacket wear, pants, any of those things. So I would say relentless, because then after that, I went and I pursued anything, any avenue I could find to get them shoes, get them pants, get them winter jackets, anything that they needed. So relentless. Mine is relentless. I'm
That
relentless.
is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, the University of Montana Trio Upward Bound program staff, thank you all so much for being on this podcast. Thank you for sharing your stories. And you are definitely a model of an Upward Bound program and an Upward Bound staff. So I appreciate you all sharing a bit of your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. We really appreciate you bringing us on here.
Absolutely.
So we have a tradition on the Let's Talk Trio podcast where we have the guest sign off. We are at the end, y'all. Do you care to do the honors?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, hi. This is Dannette Fadness, she, her, hers. I'm a graduate of the University of Providence, Great Falls.
Hi, this is Jonathan Carter, and I'm a graduate of Purdue University.
Hi, this is Xavier Xtravaganza, and I'm a graduate of the University of Montana.
Trio works.
Are you a participant, alum, or staff of a TRIO program? Do you want your program highlighted? You or your program could be featured in an upcoming episode of Let's Talk Trio. Get a hold of us by going to our Facebook page or Instagram and send us a direct message. Search for Let's Talk Trio. We want to get your story to the public.
You just heard from our guests, the Trio Upward Bound staff at the University of Montana in Missoula. Thank you to Xavier, Jonathan, and Dannette for being on the podcast and for sharing your trio journeys. Remember, if you would like to be on the Let's Talk Trio podcast or know a staff, advocate, participant, or alumni, send us an email at letstalktrio@gmail.com. That email again is letstalktrio@gmail.com. A heartfelt thanks to our individual supporters, Angelica Vialpando, Dr. Jamie Motley, Dr. Ryan Barone, Dr. Jeff Nepute, Angelica Valdez, Rosario Riley, Felicia Rivera, Eric LaMaster, Jeff Kahlden, and Jaded Electronics. Thank you to our corporate sponsors, TrioJoblist.com, Nosotros Education Center, The Trio Store, powered by Proforma. Visit www.thetriostore.com, your source for Trio Graduation Stoles, and Student Access. Thank you all so much for your continued support of this podcast. You too can be a sponsor of the Let's Talk Trio podcast in one of three ways. Become a monthly patron on Patreon. Our base level starts at $1 a month. Become a corporate sponsor by placing an ad on the podcast. Contact us for details. Become a supporter with a one-time donation to the podcast PayPal account. Our business handle is @Let'sTalkTrio. I'd like to take a moment to thank our honorary members of the Let's Talk Trio podcast, Roderick Chambers, Tony Ho, Scott Kendall, and Susan Cramp. The Let's Talk Trio podcast team is John Russell, audio engineer, music producer and composer, and post-production editor. Amelia Castaneda, script supervisor, marketing manager, social media manager, and producer. Juan Rivas, executive producer and host. Be sure to follow the Let's Talk Trio podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. This episode was recorded Thursday, December 19th, 2024. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will catch you on the next episode.